They told us alchemy was about turning metal into gold, that it was a primitive science, a failed experiment of early chemistry. But what if that was never the point? What if the gold they spoke of had nothing to do with wealth, and everything to do with the soul? Hidden beneath cryptic symbols, fire rituals, and arcane diagrams lies a deeper purpose, a map not to riches, but to inner transformation. The ancient alchemists weren't chasing fortune. They were seekers, mystics, architects of the invisible. They believed that just as lead could become gold, the base nature of a human could be refined, burned, purified, transmuted into something divine. This was not madness. This was metaphor, and it survived for centuries in coded manuscripts and sacred texts, waiting for those ready to understand. What if everything you've been told about alchemy was a distraction, designed to keep you from discovering the real gold? The ancient texts spoke in symbols for a reason. They knew that only those prepared, inwardly refined, could grasp their meaning. The language of alchemy was never meant to be obvious. Fire didn't just represent heat. It was purification. Mercury wasn't just a liquid metal. It was the fluid mind, the shifting spirit. Salt wasn't seasoning. It was the essence of preservation and grounding. These were metaphors, each chosen with care, each pointing inward. The real lab wasn't made of stone and glass. It was the human body. The crucible was your pain. The flame was your desire. The blackened lead was your ego. And the gold, that was awareness, self-realization, consciousness refined beyond illusion. This process, known as the magnum opus, wasn't a myth. It was a map, a spiritual blueprint hidden inside allegory. But to follow it, you had to see with more than just your eyes. You had to remember what modern life wants you to forget, that you are the philosopher's stone. The journey of alchemy always began in darkness. In the black phase, the Negredo, the seeker faced their own shadow, their fears, regrets, desires unfulfilled. It was not just symbolic. It was deeply psychological. Before anything could be transformed, it had to be acknowledged. The alchemist would descend, willingly, into their own inner chaos. They would confront the raw material of the self, wounded identity, egoic distortion, emotional residue. This stage was painful, necessary. Without this descent, no true transformation could ever begin. It is here that modern seekers often turn away, mistaking discomfort for failure. But the ancients knew better. They embraced the dark as the womb of change. Only by dying to what we are can we awaken to what we might become. In the Negredo, the ego begins to dissolve, illusions break down, and from the ashes, something still and silent begins to emerge. Not gold yet, not light yet, but the first flicker of space for the soul to speak. If this fire feels familiar, stay with me. Subscribe and tap the bell. The real fire begins in what comes next. As the shadow dissolves, the alchemist enters the white phase, albedo. Here begins the process of clarification. It's the washing of the soul, the illumination of what lies beneath the soot. Insights start to emerge, flashes of understanding, clarity where once there was confusion. But this is not the end. It is a fragile awakening. In albedo, one begins to perceive the dualities within, light and dark, spirit and matter, illusion and truth. The alchemist no longer fights the shadow, but integrates it, recognizing that transformation is not about denial, but unification. The opposites must merge. The self must become whole. This is where many turn back, mistaking the light for the goal. But the wise know, albedo is not the destination. It is only the dawn, a pale glow before the real fire. The ego has been cracked, but not yet transcended. The self has been revealed, but not yet reborn. The soul stirs. The real work is just beginning. And the fire, is still waiting. Then comes the red phase, rubedo. The fire returns, but this time it is conscious. It no longer burns to destroy, but to unify. In rubedo, the fragmented self becomes whole. The alchemist has faced darkness, embraced the light, and now stands in the blaze of integration. It is here that the inner gold begins to solidify, not a metal, but a state of being, a radiant awareness born from trial, pain, and transmutation. This is the real philosopher's stone, not a thing to possess, but a state to become. Rubedo is not peace without fire. It is peace through fire. The soul is no longer hidden, no longer buried beneath the ego. It shines through the cracks. It speaks through the silence. The alchemist does not transcend the world, but returns to it, grounded, glowing, transformed. What once was raw and chaotic has now become sacred and intentional. And yet, rubedo is not an end. It is a new beginning. The inner sun rises, and with it, a new kind of vision. One that sees through illusion, one that remembers truth. Once transformed, the alchemist cannot return to the world unchanged. Their vision is altered, their senses heightened. What was once mundane now vibrates with meaning. The world becomes a mirror, every encounter a reflection, every obstacle a lesson. They begin to speak less, but say more. They act slower, but with purpose. This is not enlightenment as escape, it is embodiment. The alchemist walks among others, but carries fire within. Their presence shifts spaces, their silence teaches, not because they are better, but because they have burned. And in that burning, something false has died. The identity built on fear, conformity, and illusion has fallen away. What remains is real, simple, silent, powerful. They do not preach transformation. They are transformation. And still, they carry the symbols, the fire, the salt, the mercury, not as relics, but as reminders of what it took to awaken, of the price of seeing clearly. For true alchemy doesn't end in gold, it begins there. The alchemist doesn't seek followers, they don't claim to hold answers. They live as questions, living symbols of transformation, walking quietly through a loud world. People sense something different, though they can't explain it. A calm gravity, a quiet fire. The alchemist becomes a kind of mirror, not to flatter the ego, but to reflect what is hidden beneath it. Their words are few, but precise. Their presence opens doors in others, not by force, but by frequency. Those ready begin to awaken just by being near. This is the silent transmission, the energetic code carried in their field, not taught, not preached, remembered. Because true alchemy isn't about turning lead into gold, it's about revealing the gold that was always there, beneath the masks, the noise, the forgetting. The alchemist is not above others, they are beside them. Not a master, but a reminder. Not a savior, but a sign. That the sacred is not somewhere far, it is within, and it has always been waiting. And now, the gold is yours to seek, not in books or temples, not in formulas or forgotten rituals, but in your breath, your body, your being. The symbols were never meant to be decoded, they were meant to be lived. Alchemy was never a secret, it was a path disguised as a puzzle, so only those who felt the call would walk it. And now, you are standing at its edge. The fire is not outside of you, it waits in your questions, it burns in your longing. True transformation does not happen in grand revelations. It happens in silence, in choice, in presence. You do not need to believe, you only need to remember. Because all that the alchemists ever tried to say was this: you are not broken, you are becoming. The gold they sought was not hidden in matter, it was hidden in you, in your wounds, in your wisdom, in your willingness to begin again. So begin. not to chase gold, but to become it? What if the real reason they hid alchemy was because it worked?